So, pancreatic cancer is the 5th most common cancer. But what percentage of research funding does it get? The answer is 1%.
Well, welcome back to Thursday's show with Terry Christian, Natalie Pinkham and Kieran Brackham. Still to come this morning, we're asking if baldness needs curing because a jab that could end hair loss is in the pipeline. But, you know, is it actually needed when so many girls say they love a bald man? 0207 173 5555 is the number. Looking forward to your calls. But right now we're going to hear what you make of this frankly shocking awareness campaign for pancreatic cancer that's caused outrage because it carries the slogan, in the poster at least, "I wish I had breast cancer." The poster itself is going to be popping up in newspapers and on stations and is the very first campaign to highlight awareness of pancreatic cancer. There's also a TV version and we've got a clip of that for you right now.
I wish I had testicular cancer.
I wish I had breast cancer.
Now, Pancreatic Cancer Action, the campaigners say they absolutely do not intend to belittle other forms of cancer, but it's clear that they're very angry that their form of the disease has the lowest survival rate of the most common 22 forms of cancer. 8,000 people are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer each year. Only 3% survive for 5 years or more. I lost a friend, Sue Carroll of the Daily Mirror, to pancreatic cancer. By contrast, breast cancer survival rates have rocketed from about 50% in the 1970s to 85% today, thanks to improved awareness and much greater research funding. We've got a little poster here that the red lines show mortality rates, the pink lines funding, and you can see there pancreatic is the 5th most deadly cancer, but receives just 1% of funding compared to the 18% of funding that goes on BC. But then many more people suffer breast cancer, around 38,000 or so a year. There's no doubt that breast cancer marketing, the marketing campaign, if you like, awareness, has been slick, high profile and effective. And I know from my own campaigning for bowel cancer awareness that there is a degree of resentment within the fundraising cancer world about that. The media loves breasts, I was once told, because they're deemed attractive. But other cancers, I don't know how anybody can find that funny in the audience, by the way, but other cancers, diseases of your bottoms and bowels, aren't viewed as attractive, so they get less attention in the press and on TV and thus less awareness. But even if you accept that is the case, you have to ask if running a campaign like this is justified, a campaign that effectively plays one horrible disease off another. And as you can see, there are a lot of angry breast cancer sufferers. Let's start with you, Natalie, because I believe you lost a relative to pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, I did. I lost my uncle within just a few months of diagnosis. There's no doubt it's a horrific cancer, but I'm deeply uncomfortable by this idea of being competitive with cancer.
It's got it talked about, and I think
yeah, I know, and I was
important.
actually going to come on and say that. I noticed it, I'm shocked by it, and I'm now talking about it. So their objectives are achieved. You know, they've ticked their boxes.
People.
But it's massively upset. I mean, I'm so disturbed by this hashtag Kerry's Wish. Hashtag Kerry's Wish. I wish I had breast cancer. And I've got relatives at the moment who are struggling with breast cancer. So, but
I believe Kerry is facing the end of her life, and if she had breast cancer, she may not be.
Well, I'm sure she would wish not to be facing the end of her life. I'm not sure she'd wish to have breast cancer.
But if she had breast cancer instead of pancreatic, she would have a much greater chance of survival. Therefore, she would wish she had breast cancer.
Relatively speaking, it's the better cancer to get. But I'm still disturbed by, shocked by, had a shudder through me when I saw this. When I saw this advert.
It's competitive compassion, isn't it, in some ways? And, you know, the advert is shocking, but then you're getting so many shocking adverts nowadays for things like this, you know, for charities, and you just wonder if you're going to, you know, the public's going to become inured to them.
Desensitised.
And the reality is like people have only got so much money to give to charities, so... You know, they are competing with each other for that money and for that
attention.
There
is a disproportionate spend on breast cancer. I think that is
beyond
beyond
the profile of pancreatic cancer rather than going down this route. Aren't there other ways of raising the profile?
Don't know.
I mean,
I mean, it should be about the cause and not who's good at promoting it, really. But again,
I think their point is that, you know, they don't get a look in pancreatic cancer. I know from bowel cancer it's very difficult to get awareness. If it wasn't for Bobby Moore passing away from the disease, the mortality rates would be much higher.
But it's the same with Kylie getting breast cancer.
Yes.
That's a sad indictment of our society, that a celebrity has to get it before we really talk about it.
Yes. Kieran?
I'm torn because
I am.
how would you advertise this sort of cancer as an appeal for, you know, money to rid of her of the cancer without doing something that, in essence, is quite shocking? And I think that there lies the problem. And you said it very well, Terry. You said it's competitive compassion. How can you compare one against the other? But unfortunately, they have to.
It's fundamentally unfair that breast cancer gets disproportionately high funding. I mean, that is unfair.
But having said that, though, they do... the breast cancer charities, they do a lot of work. All the ladies do lots of runs all the time, 4 or 5 times a year. They have a fantastic family
events, everything.
All the time. And there's no reason why the other cancer charities can't do the same.
But I take Matthew's point that there are certain parts of the body that people just would prefer not to talk about, and that is awful as well.
I can go with Jeremy B. I used to do bowel cancer. We used to do pub quizzes, big pub quizzes, and with the late Jeremy Beadle, who died of liver cancer, and to dispel people's uncomfortableness about dealing with bowel cancer, at the start of each evening, used to get everybody around the tables, after they had a couple of sherbets, to drop their trousers and stand on the table with a toilet brush in their hands in their underwear. And he said, right, now we've got the embarrassment over with, let's get on with the quiz. Now, that's a very light-hearted way of getting over our icky feelings. This is at the opposite end of the scale, but it's undoubtedly... I'm very mindful of the breast cancer sufferers, but it's undoubtedly putting pancreatic cancer in our consciousness.
The problem is that if you hear the words pancreatic cancer, it does feel like a death sentence in a way that other cancers don't, and they need to break that.
Do you know what? I think they could compare to other charities about the amount of money that's invested, but I don't think they should have done it this way. I wish I had breast cancer. They could have a graph showing...
in a way, because we're discussing it, they've succeeded in what they wanted to do.
The phones are red hot, and it will be intriguing to find out how you feel about this, whether you're uncomfortable. Even if you're uncomfortable, whether you approve. Anna.
We've got Kerry on line 1.
Morning, Kerry.
Morning.
Would you be Kerry from the poster?
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you for picking up the phone, and my best wishes to you as well. Any reservations about being the woman on the poster?
Absolutely none at all. I'm proud to have been on there.
Any sympathy for breast cancer sufferers who've certainly made their objections felt? I mean, I was reading the Mail online, some of their comments. I mean, never knowingly very warm, the comments, but there's some pretty harsh words out there.
Yeah, there are, and I have a sympathy for any cancer sufferer. I wouldn't wish cancer on anyone. It's an awful disease, I would know. But those words on the poster are words I actually spoke when I was diagnosed. I wish I had breast cancer.
I'm guilty of putting words in your mouth earlier. I was suggesting that the reason you said I wished I had breast cancer is because if you had breast cancer, you would have a better chance of a life.
Yes, that's exactly true. As you said, the survival rates for breast cancer when it's first diagnosed are a lot better. Obviously, secondary breast cancer and metastatic breast cancer, it goes down, but the fact is I have a 3% chance of survival, and I had that. That was my sentence when I was diagnosed.
And what are your prospects, Kerry?
At the moment, not great. I am undergoing chemotherapy, but I've been told by my oncologist if it doesn't work, I have 4 to 5 months, which is unfortunately the average survival rate for someone diagnosed at stage 4, which I was.
What are you angriest about, if angry is the right word? Is it the lack of funding, the lack of awareness, the media's lack of involvement with pancreatic cancer?
I think it's the lack of awareness. I mean, when I was diagnosed, I had no idea even what my pancreas was, what it did, and I worked on a cancer ward. I had absolutely no idea what was involved, what sort of symptoms I should have been looking out for, and I'd had them for months, and I was misdiagnosed a fair few times. So it's getting the word out there that people need to be aware of the symptoms. And yes, it is a shocking campaign, but I think from 40 years, if the survival rate's not changing, it needs to be.
Tell us, I mean, I would be failing in my duty of care to the viewers if I didn't ask you, can you outline some of the symptoms that people should be aware of?
Of course, yeah. New onset or persistent upper abdominal pain or upper back pain that radiates round to the front. Any yellowing of the eyes and skin, so jaundice. Any sort of new pain in the stomach area. You can get the symptoms of jaundice like itching on your feet, hands and feet, which I had no idea was a symptom. They're the main ones to look out for, and they're what's highlighted in the video ad campaign as well.
Can I ask how old you are, Kerry?
I'm 24.
Oh, my word, my word, my word.
That's another myth as well, because I always thought pancreatic cancer affected older people. But what I think is really interesting, Kerry, is that line came from you rather than some marketeers. Because I mistakenly thought that it was them trying to shock. But if you actually said that, that makes it have even more impact. So
yeah, it was myself and another lady who was involved, the lady involved in the video campaign, who actually says those words as well. She said exactly the same thing herself. It's not words in our mouths, they're words that have been taken from us for the campaign.
OK, Kerry, I say again, I wish you the very best of luck with your journey, I really do, and I think what you've done, whether people disapprove or not, is nevertheless very courageous, and I think it will have a serious impact on the disease. I truly believe it will, so thank you for the call. Let's try another call.
We have Gemma on line 4.
Good morning, Gemma.
Hi, hello.
Hello. What would you like to tell us? How do you view this ad? Campaign?
Well, I'm 32 and I was diagnosed with breast cancer in December.
OK.
So when I originally saw the ad, I wasn't really totally offended by it. I didn't see how it was necessary to compare it to breast cancer, really. And I didn't realise it was actually something that Kerry had, an actual pancreatic patient had said. But I just didn't like the word wish because, I wish I didn't have breast cancer, but I don't really wish I had any other disease either.
Can you see... it's interesting. I think Natalie's view has changed slightly since we've heard from Kerry. Can you see, from her point of view, that if she had breast cancer, she might very well not be facing the end of her life in 4 or 5 months' time? God forbid that should happen. In which case, one can understand the comment, even the wish element of it.
Now I've heard Kerry talk, I have maybe changed my opinion slightly. I do understand that. Obviously, she's facing possibly the end of her life, which is awful. But from my point of view, I was also diagnosed while pregnant, so I've just had a baby and I've got a year ahead of, intense treatment and major surgery. And I didn't like it being made as if it wasn't as important, or doesn't affect your life as much. Although I know I will come out the other end. It's still not a nice thing to go through, and not something you would wish on anyone.
I have to say, if I had testicular cancer, the survival rates there are very, very high indeed. They're higher than breast cancer. I think they're in the 90%, high 90s, I think. It's still not much fun. And I think if I had testicular cancer, I would feel the same as you about the advert. And I also think, like you, that having heard Kerry say that it was what she said, I would be less annoyed. I'm with you and her. And again, I wish you the very best of luck as well. Really terrible situation to be in, to find out when you're pregnant as well. So best of luck to you, Gemma. Sure things will be okay.
We have Penny on line 2.
Good morning, Penny.
Good morning.
Anna's just whispering away. You're the lady in the film?
I am, yes.
OK. Can you tell us how you came to be involved in it?
I had an enormous amount of support from Pancreatic Cancer Action, and I've got to know all the people that work for this amazing charity really well. I mean, they've just become friends, really, and when they asked us to take part in the campaign, they didn't tell us what the line was going to be, and talked us through how we were feeling, and I have to say, I'm completely with Kerry, and it was my line as well. These were my thoughts.
Why, Penny? Why did you say it?
Because I've got stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I've got terminal cancer. And my father died of the same disease at roughly the same age as me. I'm 51. And one of the previous people talking was saying they thought it was an older person's cancer. The mean age for pancreatic cancer is 70. It looks like in my family there's a hereditary link, which makes you more predisposed to having this disease. I've got 3 children. My son's 30.
Why did you say you wished you had breast cancer? What is it specifically about that?
The survival rates, the statistics for pancreatic cancer are absolutely terrible. I see you're just running the film now. There I am. They're absolutely terrible. The survival rate is 3%. At the moment, I was an incredibly fit woman otherwise when I was diagnosed, and although my future is very, very, very bleak in many respects, I have responded really well to treatment. But I wouldn't have that treatment if it wasn't for the research funding. But just 1% of funds go to pancreatic cancer as opposed to the other charities. And we had to get on board and do something that was sadly shocking. It's bad that we have to do that, but we were completely behind it because both Kerry and I and Andrew, who's the gentleman in the ad, didn't know each other before. But on that day, which was a very emotional day when we were filming, in fact, Kerry was too sick to come to the studio, but we all felt the same way.
How do you feel, though, Penny, about the fact that breast cancer sufferers, some, I might say many, are upset?
Oh, I'm completely empathise. I mean, because no one would wish anybody to have cancer.
No.
I mean, it's the most vile disease. And but all I'm saying is, from the bottom of my heart, it's the truth. I wish I had a cancer that meant that I was going to be around to see my girls get married and have children. You know, it's terribly, terribly sad. I'm very angry about the future that's possibly going to be taken away from me.
Penny, again, whether people approve or not, I think you made a huge difference, and I wish you the very best of luck as well. Kerry, our first lady we spoke to, what she didn't tell you is about some of the appalling troll comments that have been posted, and she's got too much dignity to do that, but whether you approve or disapprove, whether you've got breast cancer or any other form of cancer, how anyone can write some of the stuff that they've done, it just sickens me. So whether you approve or disapprove, I think it was great to hear from all kinds of women in that. So we got